Now, here is how I got refunded from a non-refundable flight that I missed while snoozing. Yes, it's actually possible to get your money back from a non-refundable flight, and how I did it, I'm still quite surprised at myself, but I knew we were getting somewhere when I started asking for my money back actually. I got refunded my flight ticket from a non-refundable flight, EasyJet, that I missed while snoozing. Meaning it was my fault, I missed my flight and I was still able to get my money back. Yeah. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Easy. I'm very happy because it's the New Year's. Yes, it's I know it's the end of January. It's the Chinese New Year's, and I actually use the Chinese calendar for my New Year. For lots of reasons I'm not going to share in this video. So grab a cup of coffee because this is going to be a sweet gist and something that's going to favor everybody. So it's something you're going to learn from and something you're going to be able to implement next time. Okay, so I'm going to give you tips and hacks you're going to use and things you should avoid so you'll be able to fight your claim. This may work for you, this may not work for you, but I feel like the more you fight, the more you get better chances or higher chances of getting your money back. Now, one thing I know for sure is there are laws protecting the smaller people from big corporations like this. So imagine the amount of people all over the world that miss their flight in a day. How many actually do ask for their money back? By the way, some of these flights actually do sell their tickets to more than one person. So they overbook or oversell their tickets. So if you miss your flight, they still make money from that seat. It doesn't really matter. Back in December, I'd had plans to go visit my sister-in-law at Belfast to go spend time with her, my brother, and they booked the flight for me, my sister-in-law. I initially thought my sister-in-law booked the flight, but it was actually my brother that booked the flight. Doesn't really matter, we all have the same name. So my brother booked the flight for me. First mistake we made was booking a morning flight. I'm not a morning person. I literally wake up by 6 a.m, look around and go back to bed, and the next time I'm waking up is like 11, 12. So I'm not really a morning person. So by the time my alarm was really ringing, I just woke up and thought it was a normal day and I went back to bed. And by the time it snapped to me that I had a flight to catch, it was already too late. But either ways, I just had to rush to the airport. So I rushed to the airport. My flight was still on ground, but then the check-in was closed. So they said they're not going to get me on the flight, that I can't make it to the flight. I've traveled a lot. Like, I've traveled to so many places. I've used flights a lot. This was the first time in my actual life that I've missed my flight. Like, me miss my flight. This was the first time it was happening to me. So I was a bit confused on how to go about it. Back in Nigeria, if you're at the airport, whereas the flight is still on ground, they'll find a way to get you on that flight. So it was a case of not being fully aware. It was more like a culture shock kind of thing, because here 1 hour to your flight is considered on time. Anything aside that, you're late. It was a shock for me. Okay, it was really a shock. I mean, back at home in Nigeria, 10 minutes I get to the airport, I can still check into that flight. So it was really weird and crazy for me. In order for me to be very sure that I wasn't going to make it on this flight, I had to ask questions. I met their staff and I asked the staff that was standing, what am I supposed to do? I was supposed to get on this flight, but I missed it. And he was like, that's sorry, I have to go back online and book a new flight. I'm like, wait, so my money is gone? Like, my money is gone? And he's like, yeah, your money is gone, so you have to go back on the app and book another flight. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like, how can I just go back on the app and book another flight? Because I'm literally here 30 minutes to my flight. And he's like, no, there's nothing he can do. That was really sad. It was really sad because I felt really bad. So I just went over to the counter and spoke to the guy that was on the counter this time. The first guy I spoke to was on the aisle, while the second guy was at the counter. So I spoke to the guy on the counter and I asked him, what am I supposed to do? He was like, oh, you could just get me on the next flight. At this point, I didn't know what he was referring to, because he may have been referring to a rescue flight, but because I did not understand and I wasn't still sure if I was going to go on that flight, I just told him, no, you know what, just don't worry. Let me just go home and decide if I'm going to make it on that flight. So after waiting at the airport for a couple of minutes, I just decided to go ahead and book the flight. So I did book the flight from my phone. Having lost that much money paying for a new ticket, £122, I felt really bad. I felt really bad. So I wasn't really vibed up for the whole experience, the whole Christmas celebration, because I knew that I had lost a lot of money. Now, the whole idea was to travel and try and work to get the money back, but that's story for another day. So at this point, I had all the time in the world while I was waiting for my flight that was to be in the next 1 or 2 hours. I sat down and decided to read the terms and conditions of EasyJet flight. And while I was looking at this, I was looking for things that concern students, because I know that when there are corporations like this, there are lots of laws that do protect the smaller people from big corporations. So I was looking for things that could favor me as a student, or things that could favor me as a person that still made it to the airport. Okay, and there it clicked. There was a part in their terms and condition that states that if you get to the airport 2 hours within the time range of the flight, or within the time from takeoff, that you are entitled to a rescue flight. And that was what I took advantage of, because basically I was at the airport when the flight was still on ground, meaning my 2 hours hadn't even started counting. Yes, my 2 hours hadn't even started counting. So I was there early enough for first class rescue flights. I reached out to their customer service via text. I was texting them on the app talking about my incident, and they were like, oh, sorry, there's nothing they can do, but they'll try referring to the right person. And that was it. That was spaced. Nothing, no response. I'm like, what? And I'm like, you can't tell me there's nothing they can do, because this is something that is practically your fault. Because I asked your staff, what would happen now? Is my money gone? And he opened his mouth to say my money was gone, meaning he made me pay for a new flight instead of getting a rescue flight ticket. So out of frustration and everything, I got really angry. At this point, I was pissed off. So I sent a message directly to their customer service complaining about this issue. I mean, how can I get to the airport within my rescue flight time and then speak to your staff, and your staff misleads me into buying a new ticket instead of getting a rescue flight? So that was my case, and that was the case I was fighting on, being misled by their staff. And if anything, most of these corporations would like to avoid anything that points fingers at them, especially when it comes to their staff doing things wrong, or when it comes to them being at fault in a case like this or a situation like this. So I did send a message to them complaining about this. I'm going to leave the message on screen so you guys can read. So as you can see, I was basically complaining about the fact that I was misled by their staff into getting a new flight, and then I was at the airport between their time range of 2 hours for a rescue flight. So you can say I actually did have a case. It might be small, but I knew I had a case. I don't know if you guys have come across Erica before. She talks about flights and cheapy flight scams, tricks and hacks you can use to get your money back from flights. And I didn't think I was going to make use of this until this happened, and then it popped to my head. Erica did say that a non-refundable flight can actually offer you a refund, and it didn't make sense to me at that time, because I felt like, oh, I'll never be in that situation. But then I was in a situation where I actually did need a refund. So after composing this sweet meal and sent to them, I waited a couple of days and I got a message from them. And according to the message, which is this, they sounded like they're doing me a goodwill. When they sent me this message, I was actually pissed off at the fact that they called it goodwill, an extension of goodwill for my money. And according to Erica, corporate firms will always want to offer vouchers so they can still make their money from you. And I'm like, no one is making money from me without my consent, without my permission. You're not going to make money from me, okay? So Erica made me dive deeper into understanding that whenever something is stated to be non-refundable, it's not necessarily non-refundable. It just means that it's a lot more limited than the other flights. I told them I wasn't interested, like I was not interested in your voucher. My other brother actually did tell me to just accept the voucher, but I felt like there was no point getting the voucher because I did pay that money out of pocket. So if I'm paying the money out of pocket and you're offering me a voucher, that means I'm not really getting my money back to my pocket. I'm only getting a voucher in case I want to travel next time, when I'm not even sure when. And even the voucher was limited for 1 year. Yeah, it sounds like a lot, but you don't know how 1 year will snap by, and you don't even need a ticket. You might be wanting to go to somewhere that EasyJet doesn't even fly to. So it's crazy how you may think voucher is a great option for you to accept, but I don't think so. And I felt like my money was something I should fight for. So I went back and forth with them. I went really heads on with them. So after having a hot with them, I went back and forth. They finally budged and offered to send me back the vouchers worth money back. So they did charge me for coming late to the airport, but the great thing was that I actually did get my money back. And because they were refunding a cheaper flight, it wasn't my pocket. So they sent the money back to the person that paid for the cheaper flight, which was my brother. So if there's anything you need to know that you learned from my video today, is that a flight being labeled non-refundable is only a wall for you to not ask them for your money back. Now, the main difference between a normal and a non-refundable flight is the name non-refundable and the fact that the laws to refund your money are a bit strict. Number two, there's always law protecting the smaller people. So when you see companies saying non-refundable, that, read their terms and conditions, there's always a loophole for you. Number three, do not make assumptions or decisions yourself. Always ask questions to be led. So if I didn't ask questions and then book the flight and later found out that, oh, that I would have been able to get a rescue flight, I wouldn't have been able to fight for my money, but I was able to fight for my money because I actually did ask questions. I did let myself to be led to the last point before making a decision of booking a new flight. Number four, voucher is only an escape from responsibility. Most big corporations would not want to offer money back. They hate refunding money. So they rather offer you a voucher. That way they'll still make money from you, but then it's like you've paid ahead of time. Number five, most of these corporate businesses are not charity organizations. They only do foundations or charity whenever they feel it's going to favor their name. But in a case where it's just you and them, they are not that charitable to be offering you goodwill. Okay, so if they're offering you or if they're labeling it goodwill, it means you have a shot at fighting for something bigger. So I hope in my video you've learned something new, and with these 5 points I've given you today, you'll be able to fight for yourself next time. And if it's something that just happened to you, you still have time to fight for yourself, please go for it, because you can. Coming from a country like Nigeria, where it seems like, or it feels like, those that have the money are the ones with the law, this country is quite different because everyone is more like in a very fine line. Yes, you may have all the money in the world, but there is always something protecting the smaller people, which is really great. So you can fight for yourself no matter how big the company or the corporate firm is. Now, if you did enjoy or learn something from this video, do well to subscribe and follow for more. All right? Subscribe. All right. Bye.